Hello, Sue. This will be blog post number 6. Sorry about this window. I was just trying to see if it actually recorded because I've had some problems with recordings before. And basically, in this blog post, what I will be going through is what I did with roaming AI. So basically, when I first created my AI, I had it so that the AI would go from A to B. And basically, and because that's what I wanted to do originally, and because of that, the implementation between that was mostly just following a path from what I found from my research. So when I first created my AI, they would stay still, and using pawn sensing, they would sense the player, and then they would go to the player, and I've explained that already in my second blog post when you read my blog posts. So I wanted to create a better functionality where basically the player here would sense, so it would sense the it will see the player, it would sense it, and then it would determine whether it'd be in range. And I wanted to check this so that if the player was in range of the enemy, then the enemy would then start chasing it or trying to find the player. So it would cast to the player, and then it would move to that to the player. The enemy would move to the player in the inner radius that it had. And that was obviously the pawn was itself, because that's what it was linked to. So what I added for the enemy to roam, I added it in with a nav mesh. So basically what it is, I created a new eventic which will check if the player is in range every frame. And what I basically did, I created two booleans, which was in range, checking if the player is in range, and a moving, so check if the player is moving. The enemy is moving, not the player. And all I did was I created an if condition statement where if the player is in range, and if the enemy is moving, it would move to the player. So it wouldn't be just the basic interaction where if it sees the player, it moves to the player. It'll be more, if it's moving already and if the player's in range, that's when the player would go. That's when the enemy would chase the player. So to do this was get an actor location. So I got the actor, which is self, or the enemy, and what I did was I created a navigable radius, which was basically I set radius, which allows the enemy to roam around, and I wanted to create an acceptance rate of where the enemy would check for the player, which is here in this case 5. The never got radius is 1,000, so that's where it can go, and then the AI is, when it sees the player between 5, in the radius of 5, that's when it starts roaming towards it and trying to find it. So I did this because it was, I felt like it was more of a challenge as well, talking about game design principles. It was more of a challenge, and it said more of a, you have to get away from the enemy and not just see them, and then hit them, and if they see you, they'll move towards you. No, they will roam around. So one could appear behind you, it could go behind you, check, it's in its radius, and then run towards you. So obviously then I had to close this with two booleans, because obviously in here, in range, it's telling you if the player, is in range, then, and the enemy is moving, and move to, then had to close it so that, on success, and on fail as well. So, taking it, so to stop moving, if is it moving still? Is it not moving? So if it's executed, it would set it to true. So that's what I had. And when I created this using the tutorial, it was quite simple to understand actually. And because I already had this tutorial already set up, I just literally had to create a boolean set in between here in these two, the cast to player and the pawn sensing, which isn't very difficult. So. And it basically just gave more functionality to my game and helped me improve my AI. So it would, when you look at the criteria, I've got AI movement now. So that's what I did. Finally, the second thing I actually did for this blog post I want to show you, again, is to do with the enemy, is that when the player hits the enemy, so the player hits the enemy, the enemy gets hit by the player, the enemy would die. And originally, if I check my blog post, this is one of my blog posts I've got, basically what I had was, I tried to create it so that it would open the level when the player died. So when the player got hit by the enemy, the player would die and it would open the level. But because my level was the same name as my file, the game got confused, and I kind of realized this quite quickly that, why is both my game and my my file the same name? It's trying to look for for something that isn't there in different in the whole file, instead of searching for a specific location for the player for the script. And so basically, I just changed the name to Bin Adventures. And you would notice I called it Bin Adventures because obviously my character looks like a bin, and I just thought it was a bit of fun to play with. We're doing programming, and you have to at least enjoy it, which I have a lot. I've really enjoyed making this whole thing. So I changed it to that, and it works. And now the player does die, and you get a menu screen as well, which I will talk about in a future blog post about menus that I created. But overall, that's what I created, and I find that I really enjoyed myself creating the AI, because it's something that you can have a lot of fun with. And doing some basic research, I found there's lots of different ways that you can implement different types of AI, which is from the most basic, which is pathfinding, or it goes from A to B, to more complicated ones. And in my case, it's not the most complicated way to implement AI, but there's more implementation into it, allowing the AI to roam using a radius and the nav mesh. So it just adds as well more challenge, like I said already, with using the game design principles. And it also creates another goal to the game, where you'll have to try and evade, try to kill the enemies, but because they move around, you never know where they're going to be. So it's also a sense of excitement as well for the player, because it allows them to not just always know where they're going to be. They can play the game again and again, get a fulfillment out of it, and it's not the same repetitive thing. All right, so thank you for listening to this blog post. Again, I will post this on YouTube, so you can obviously look at the video there, just in case it gets corrupted. I will post better evaluations and things on my evaluation itself, and different test logs and things like that. Thank you very much for watching this.